I've done a few product reviews previously, but this is my first sponsored one. I want to thank the folks at Fifine Technology for sending me their new M6 headphone amplifier. You might be asking why you might need a headphone amplifier. If you are running a home studio like this and you have multiple people tracking parts, and you want to be able to split your signal, one, without degrading your signal or losing volume, but two, also having each person being able to monitor and change their volume depending on their needs, then that's a must. Otherwise, you're just at the mercy of whatever the master volume is. Same idea if you're doing a podcast and you have people in the same room, you can't really use monitor speakers, so you might give them headphones and they can adjust their volume independently. Also, for higher impedance headphones, some studio grade headphones often have a higher impedance and they may require amplification after the source. Okay, so let's get to opening this up. Again, this is the Fifine N6 4-channel headphone amplifier. And we got a pretty simple cardboard box. It's packed pretty nicely. We've got styrofoam packing in there. Simple, no real frills, but I wouldn't expect that, nor do I really care about that. I just, would care about the product. This is also in the budget line of headphone amplifiers. You can find it for just 22 bucks at Amazon. There'll be a link in the video description. So here we have a little bit of info about the company, some contact info. And also, this comes with a 1-year warranty, but they give you info on the back here how you can upgrade that to a 2-year warranty if you register on the website. And then also we got the user's guide. Just fairly straightforward and simple, kind of like the product, which is nice. So in here we've got the amplifier. Look how small that is. Take it out. As I mentioned, we've got 4-channel for 4 headphone output, and then there's a stereo TRS tip ring sleeve input. You can also run this in mono, and each channel has its own volume control, and that's the main point here. Each person can control their own listening experience, or at least the volume of it. And the dials all turn easily, and this is made of, seems pretty ruggedly constructed metal here. Comes with a 12-volt power supply that is included. There's no power button. Once you plug it in, it's on. There's a power light to indicate that. And when you unplug it, it's off, so make sure that you have access to that if that's necessary. This is a really nice small form factor. It's not even as big as my hand. And I imagine if you're needed on the go, you can put it in a book bag or a pedal bag. It's ultra compact, ultra portable. Has a little padded feet. I don't see why I would need anything more than this for my own studio uses. Typically, that's just me tracking, but if I have another person tracking, I can pop this in, and so we can both control our volume. The product description says that it'll be high quality even at high volume, no distortion once, even if you turn it up high, ultra low noise, no crackle or loss of signal as you add headphones. So we're going to test that out and see if anything happens as we add. And I'll tell you about how I'm going to test that. There are 3 things that I'm going to do. One is just to listen to a song that I wrote. This one's an instrumental tune I wrote called Rubber Feet. And I'm going to listen to it through my normal tracking headphones, these are Sennheiser HD280s. And I'm going to listen to them through my RME Fireface 400. I'm going to listen to those just through the headphones, and then listen to them through the Fifine N6. And that'll be my first test, and then I'll actually make a recording of the 4 headphone outputs. We'll start with just one, and then I'll add more outputs and actually record it into my software to see if the biggest thing that you'll actually be able to visually see, I'm going to record it too, so we'll be able to hear it, but you'll be able to see if the signal levels get lower by seeing if the amplitude of the waves gets smaller. And then the last thing, I'll just do a sine wave, because I think that would be a more static way to look at it. So if you're still listening or watching by the towards the end of the video, that'll be the last test we'll do for the Fifine N6 headphone amplifier. So as I mentioned, for the first test, what we're going to do is I'll listen to the song straight through my Army Fireface 400. Then we'll send the signal from the Fireface into the Fifine headphone amplifier, and I'll compare those. I don't really have a way of recording that because there's too much involved to get a fair recording of that, but I will, I will give my critique of what's going on here. So let's listen. We'll listen through it on the Fireface, just straight through the Fireface first. Okay, so now we're gonna plug everything in. This is taking the stereo out, the tip ring sleeve here, to make sure you have the right cable if you're gonna be doing a stereo, and plug that into the input. Now I've got to unplug my headphones here, and we'll plug this into one. Got to turn it on with the included 12-volt adapter. And please remember, whenever you're using a headphone amplifier, make sure you set the volume to 0 before you plug it in, especially if you have a previous source that is amplifying the signal to begin with, because you could have a very loud volume that you're not prepared for, and it is not good for your ears, of course. Alright, here we go. Yes, we got our red light on, telling us that we're in. Got my Sennheiser 280 Pros plugged into the first channel. Turn up, and I'm going to do my best to match the volume that I was listening to through the Fireface and see if there's any, coloration. That's what I'm listening for. Coloration, distortion, unwanted noise. So I was changing the volume here, and I don't hear, there's no crackling. I can get plenty loud. 12 o'clock is fine for where I want it. I've encountered no distortion. I'm going to turn the volume down on the Fireface and then crank it on the Fifine to see if we get any unwanted noise. It's nice and clear. Alright, so yeah, that sounds great. I was actually expecting to hear some sort of coloration just because I'm running through something else, but I didn't notice anything. So that's great. So we've done our first test where I listened to the song straight through Fireface, and then I switched it into the Fifine N6 and listened to it. I don't hear any coloration in the sound. The knobs turn nicely. The box itself is made of metal. The knobs are plastic, but they still feel pretty nice. They're made to seem like metal. They turn nicely. And I would say if there's any weak point to it, then just say be a little bit gentle with the knobs. If you want to put it somewhere where you're going to transport it, make sure that it's protected. Not going to be bumping up against other stuff. But sound-wise, I noticed no difference. To basically prove that there's no difference, or to test it, honestly, I'm going to take the stereo signal and then do a mono out with 1/4-inch tip sleeve cables and record each of the 4 outputs to show that the volume level doesn't change. But before we do that, I'm just going to listen to it and plug in all these other headphones that I've collected, and we'll see if anything changes. Here we go. And I'll start it at 12 o'clock again. Add my in-ears. No change. Add another pair. Number 3. No change. Last pair. iPod earbuds. Everything's the same. It's good. I'll go through to make sure all the connections work. Tested those ones. Good. good. Okay, so we just listened to the song, or the first portion of the song with just my Sennheiser HD280s, and then added 3 other headphones into the mix, and I could notice no difference even as I changed the volume. There's no crackling as advertised, and no degradation in the sound. And so far so good. And now we're going to go on to a third test where I take the same song. I'm using Logic 9, the second newest version of Logic, I believe, on an older iMac here in my home studio. And one thing you can do here, see this green area, is a continuous loop where you can keep recording. So what I'm going to do is have the first 8 measures of the song play. First in the Fifine headphone amp, I'm going to send out just one signal. And then once we come around to the second time, I'll plug in another instrument cable, and we'll be recording 2 at the same time, and then 3, and then 4, and then we'll have 4 tracks of the Fifine 1, which is what I'm calling this first cable, and then we'll have 3 tracks of Fifine 2, 2 tracks of Fifine 3, and 1 track of 4, and we'll be able to see whether the signal changes in volume by looking at the amplitude of the waves. Here we go. Adding the second one. Plug the third one in. Ready to plug the fourth one in. Okay, so now I've recorded all 4 of the parts, the instrument cables coming out of the Fifine N6 headphone amplifier, and we can go in here and look closer to see if there's any change. And I can double click, because when we do this continuous recording mode, it just keeps recording in the loop. And now we went 4 passes through, so now if I double click on the first Fifine, what I call Fifine 1, the first input, I can look at just those passes of the first input. And over here I can zoom in width-wise, and then I can zoom in height, and look at these, and then I can try to find like different spots where there's a peak, like say right here, and then I can compare all the takes. So we've got the first take here, got a peak, second take looks pretty similar, third take looks pretty similar again, and the last take, they all have this peak here. There's another peak over here. Again, we have this very similar waveform. And I can even zoom in even more. Zooming isn't quite the right word. I can make the waveform larger to the point that it hits the ends of the bar here. And then I can see if those points are all the same. So let me try to find a spot that looks like the biggest amplitude. This might be this one hitting the bottom here. Yeah. Here, 4th beat, measure 5. So I'll get a little closer in on that width-wise. Here it is. And we'll make it so it reaches just the edge, or right before the edge. Right there. And now that's the 4th one, and it doesn't quite hit the edge. The 3rd one also doesn't quite hit the edge. The 2nd one, also very similar. And the 1st one. They're all very similar. Okay, so now we've done 3 tests. We're going to do the 4th test, which might be the truest test here. We're just going to make a sine wave. Just use a MIDI controller to make one continuous tone. So I'm going to record this, and then we can just loop it, just like we did with the song. So I'll just set it up like I did before. We'll make four new inputs. Again, we'll just take it and we'll loop it. Record the first output from the Fifine headphone amplifier. Record that first, and then keep on adding each one. So we'll have four go arounds with it. Now I So now we're done. We can go back and look at it. We can zoom in and open up. We want to look at the first audio track to see if the amplitude of the wave changes at all. So we'll zoom in as much as we can here. And now just go to the first one and take out all the takes. The top one here is the one that's live, so we have four different takes, and I can switch between them. Now we go from the third one. The second one looks exactly the same. Pretty much exactly the same. We're like zoomed into milliseconds here, so we're looking to see if the sound gets decreased because we've added other parts, and it doesn't, which is what you want. And I've already, as I've gone through the other tests and listened to it, and was happily surprised, to be honest, that the sound stayed virtually the same throughout. So I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for something small, a nice small headphone amplifier, you're going to be playing with a band and recording at the same time, or if you do podcasts, you want to keep your volume level controllable by each person, this is a nice, inexpensive way to do that. So you can check out the link again in the description for this video if you want to check it out on Amazon. Thanks for watching.